Hello and welcome to Season of War. A little bit of technical issues on, not technical failures, human failures on my behalf this morning. But happy to be joined by Noah. Noah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Doing
Awesome.
wonderful. Excited to go.
Awesome. Well, yeah, again, sorry everybody. Had to reset the stream because I am a failure. But we are going to be getting going in just a moment. Want to give a couple of Twitch shoutouts. First and foremost to our amazing table boss, Josh, who's relaying all the info from the table as it happens to us so we can sound like we know what we're talking about. Um, Other than that, we just want to give a shout out to our friendly local game store partners. Here in Canada, we got X Planet locally to us. So if you're in the area, definitely check it out or hit them up online. And if you're in the States, you can check out Warpfire Minis, another great store that runs events and is a great part of the community. Definitely check those two stores out. Otherwise, we are at round 3 of the Slambo GT. So this is pretty, big match. End of day 1, 2 undefeated players here with Nate and his Nighthaunt facing off against Esteban and his Idoneth Deepkin. Any thoughts on the match? I guess preliminarily, Noah?
I love both these lists, and I love how just like this is an idea, and I'm gonna run with it. Like you look at both of these. There's essentially one unit that's gonna try to do everything, and I love that.
Yeah, there definitely weren't the longest lists to write or copy out, but it will be. I'm very interested to see this matchup. This is noteworthy. This is with the old Nighthaunt book, so there are some obvious changes. They will still be fighting at the end of the charge if they roll a 10 plus, not doing all the debuffs that they now have in the new book. But Nate's been doing well, with the Nighthaunt, the old battle tome for a while, despite a lot of people thinking it's been a little behind the curve.
Yeah, you know what? I can tell you the old battle tome is swingy because of the 4-ups, but was still really powerful. I lost a game to a very different list to this recently, and there's right at the end of the old book. If you can put those bubbles up, you actually have a lot of damage, and then your survivability is fantastic.
Yeah, and bringing back, I know there's different ways to bring back models, and the Spear Host you can return as well. Being at 3 wounds a pop, that's a pretty tanky unit in there. 27 wounds in that unit of 9 Spear Hosts is pretty solid. But
Yeah.
probably a good start to or place to start if you want to take us through the Nighthaunt list.
Sure thing. This Nighthaunt list is Nagash for 50% of the list, a unit of 9 Spirit Hosts, and then he's got a Spirit Torment, and then 3 units of Hex Wraiths. And it's Grand Sorcery, so he's just trying to keep that Nagash alive, and
Yeah.
he's got a really nice Triumph bid. He's 1965. He's going to be Emerald Host, so he's got a bunch of the buffs that came in off of that sub allegiance, kind of made him a lot more playable. And he's going to be able to bring back 2 Spirit Hosts, 2 Hex Rays from every unit, every single hero phase with Nagash, which would be awesome. And then the Spirit Torment's going to be healing. I think it's like 1 plus D3 in Battle Shock. So, if you don't clear something in one combat, good luck. It's just going to stand there. And then Nagash runs around and just is a badass.
Yep, does what he does. Again, 1,000 points nearly. It's pretty spicy. Quite a big investment, but big powerful body, and we know how his mortal wound machine gun can pop off. And Deepkin does not like mortal wounds, that's for sure.
Yeah, he can single-handedly clear a unit just with the mortals, and a lot of the time he's going to be casting those up, charging something, releasing them, and then piling into something else, which is a really powerful mechanic. He's also got access to the Nighthaunt lore, I believe, still at this point, which is a really, really good lore. They just didn't have great casters, and Nagash is a great caster.
Yes, he is. They used to be able to. My brother used to throw Arcan and some other guys in there, but with the new changes to Soulblight and everything, lots changing. But Nagash is definitely one of the best casters in the game.
Yeah. super powerful. And I think there was a spell. I think there's like a -1 to wound spell. There's a fight last spell. There's all kind of mystic shields he can put on himself, reroll hit and wounds for himself. So the amount of buffing that can go on, or the amount of mortals, it's a huge toolbox in one model.
It does look like, so both of our players were in just 1-drop battle regiments, and it looks like Nate would have won the roll off to drop first. We are playing, the mission is the Vice. We see the 5 objectives. Those ones aren't actually there yet. The mission is the Vice though. A little bit, there were some tweaks to some of the missions at Slambo. But it looks like Nate would have won the drop and has chosen to give Esteban first turn with the Idoneth Deepkin.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think probably, as the Deepkin player, and it looks like they put out the ritual for +1 charge, and there's a mystic shield out there. But basically he's going to have to focus down a unit at a time, and those shivers giving the extra rend is not going to help very much. So you're really going to want to try to move in a pack and not try to just scatter damage like you would normally in a shooting list like this, where they have a lot of MSU shooting. This is everything shoots that thing, and let's try to kill it. Yeah,
you really got to focus units down. I know, again, with death, there's always the threat of the recursion. Esteban looks like he's a pretty precise player here with his measuring distance. You can see all his sticks he's laying out, probably just making sure he's on the edge of 24 inches, which is the shooting range of those sharks. But yeah, as he said, the sharks, their shooting is a little bit swingy to begin with. D3 damage, and especially when you're ethereal, it'd be tough, I think, to chew through those spirit hosts.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's getting a 6-up as well, right?
Yep.
The 4-up, 6-up. So I guess we did. The Smash King there in the back is normally something that could go completely wild with the rend and the multi-damage and everything into an army with a bunch of different units. Getting into multiple units with that is going to be very, very hard against Nate's list here.
Yep. And the Rend 3 is obviously a big part of his strength. And obviously the Rend's not going to be very valuable here in this game.
Yeah. He can hit, if he can sneak in, that king could kill Nagash.
That's true.
Nate's played this enough. It doesn't seem likely. And if he's loaded up with arcane bolts, there's no, you can't charge him with that king. So
especially with, again, it's great for Nate to win priority here, give away the turn, because the threat of the double from Deepkin is, if you were to get doubled, that king could be anywhere. But getting to dictate the turn order, give away turn 1 to the Deepkin, is allowing Nate, to keep the game and the predictable for him in terms of where things are to be or where they can be on following turns.
Yeah, absolutely. And he'll just keep giving it away, I assume, unless there's, I can win the game right now moment for a double. Really big. And the other thing is those spirit hosts and those sharks, Nagash and those spirit hosts can go sit on that middle when that thing moves, and getting moved off of there is going to be very hard for the, small body count that Deepkin player here has.
Yep. Still a solid volume of attacks though. Again, Ren doesn't matter, but when the riders on each of the sharks have 6 attacks, so they can chip it down. Nighthaunt, it is ethereal saves, but they're still not great saves that overall they can't save stack. So still just 4-ups, right? 4-up, 6-up, like you said, but
yeah, and that's the swigginess. If you roll terribly, this Nighthaunt army can just disappear with the volume of attacks. And that fight first turn is going to be super important for that. That's the turn he can go kill Nagash.
Yeah, fair enough. And so on the Deepkin side, Esteban did choose Ferocious Advance for his battle tactic. With the 3 heroes, just an easy one to complete, turn 1. Worth noting, we've seen it ruled differently at different events, but Slambo did rule it that you could not do aggressive expansion on your 2 objectives. Now, I know that is a contentious rule because some events will rule it one way or the other, but just it's unclear through the wording. But there are many events, I think regularly we often see that allow you to do aggressive expansion on those 2 objectives because they technically are on the border of your territory, but it's the border of your territory and nothing. It's on the edge of the table.
Yeah, that one just needs an FAQ, although we're so close now to the next GHB that I doubt we get one.
Yeah, hopefully we don't see the Vice again because I hate that mission. Not that I hate it. It's a tough one. I don't mind it, actually. It's a good one to have in the game because it challenges armies in different ways. But it definitely is a tough mission for a lot of armies.
I like the uniqueness, and you know, it's similar to, you know, there's a lot of complaints about hero scoring and etc. or battle line having OPSEC and that one mission. I feel like having those in a pack and having those available that they could come up and are not just sort of exiled by all TOs does make you build different armies.
Yep.
Which is I think is pretty good.
Yep,
You know, it's
I agree. And your pack needs to be well rounded, where you have missions that are to challenge each army style, right? You don't want it. Unfortunately, like we've had a number of events earlier in the edition around here where it was like all the missions were 3 objectives in the center of the table when Guardians were at their best, and it's like, oh well, this is great. If you face Guardians, all these missions are good for them.
Why are we playing this? Let's just go to the bar.
Yeah. But yeah, again, lots of precision. We see Esteban just making sure all his heroes are within 3 there. And his Battle Mage did cast Mystic Shield. Not sure if we mentioned that already. On the Sharks, looks like the ones in the center of the table. Towards the center, so 1 spellcaster for the Deepkin. I mean, we're seeing a little more Eidolon of the Sea pop out with the new book, but still not overly known for their magical prowess.
No, and the Eidolon gives that a lot of other buffs as well, which is pretty excellent.
Yeah. Sure.
I guess we should run through that list too, right?
Yeah, let's do it. We're in movement phase, so we got a little time.
So this one was Futon, Futhon, and so he's going to get those shivers. He's got 3 of them, and then 2 reinforced Alapexes. So that's all sharks for your battle line and stuff. You've got Lotan, Battle Mage of Gur, and a Smash King. And he is also coming at 1965 points.
Yeah, so end of time, neither one will have the triumph here.
Yeah, which is pretty fascinating. I've seen a lot of lower and lower point value stuff coming out because the new triumph table are all actually helpful, which is pretty cool.
Yep. But yeah, lots of sharks obviously in this. This is the heaviest shark list I've ever seen played, so I'm really curious to, as a Deepkin player, to see how this goes. 9 sharks is quite a few. A big investment there. That's almost 3/4 of your army. So, I mean, it basically is 3/4 of your army minus 15 points. So hopefully, yeah, they can do the work. But yeah. Otherwise, just want to give a quick shout out to everyone watching this live or in the future. If you do and you enjoy the content, please don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to go a step further, you can check out our premium membership for extra content. We really appreciate it. But also, we got a very important question in the chat from Dayton. It says, how does Noah have time to do all this? He's already played 6 games this week and removed 10 ticks.
I've removed 0 ticks, Dayton. I'm extremely careful about them. But how do I have time to do this? I had an opening. I don't know. I guess time is a flat circle. We just I have played a lot of games this week, though.
Nothing wrong with that. I don't know what it's like. I'm sure you've got lots of ticks there, but it is definitely tick season up here where we are. So we're like can't take the dogs through certain trails and areas that we love to go to. It's just nuts.
You got to towel them down with a white towel and hope those ticks jump onto the lighter skin thing when you get back. And I'm so crazy about tick-tucking my pants that Joe's been making fun of me at various tournaments that I'm just doing it in the hall. I'm like, you know what? You don't know where ticks are.
It's better safe than sorry.
So it looks like the sharks are based on the measurement and rolling dice, all shooting into those spirit hosts right in front there.
Nice. Again, it's just gonna be like all down to those ethereal 4-ups, right? If you're above average, you're laughing. If you're below average, we might see those spirit hosts like take a good chunk out of them. And it is notable with Nate's deployment there and positioning. If he loses 2 spirit hosts, he could actually be suffering from coherency issues there.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he's a little strung out. He's got the triangles on the end, but as soon as he loses a second unit or second base, if he does, that could be an issue for him.
Not as big a deal with those bases coming back as early as they're going to be, because there's going to be the potential for 2 turns worth of 2 models coming back.
Yep.
But yeah, he could lose 4 of those bases from that coherency.
That could be a trouble, but yeah, we'll see what the sharpshooting is doing. Sounds like the first unit dealt only 2 damage, so
no.
Yeah, not great for the Deepkin player. He'd love a couple more in there.
Yeah.
But I think we're on to the second unit, which has used all-out attack, so they'll be getting that +1 to hit. Hopefully a little more resilient. And looks like we're seeing 1 model pulled, and very interesting that Nate pulled a base right in the center of the unit. Now, I know the recursion. Is that still at the end of the turn?
I believe it's in the battle shock phase. I don't remember if it's both or only his. Yeah. Based on the pull, I'm guessing it's in both.
Yeah, you would think so. I did play recently against Matt just last night with his Nighthaunt, and that was at the end of the battle shock of every turn. Sorry, don't remember. That could have been a change. Not 100% sure if that was the same in the old book though. But yeah, like you're saying. I would assume Nate did not just make a horrendous mistake and knows what he's doing.
And he considered that very automatic. He's been playing this forever. I'm going to go benefit of the doubt on that one.
Yeah, well, give him yeah, exactly. And Nate is in the chat and says it is every turn. So confirming there that he is not a fool and knows what he's doing. So no surprise, but we don't know what we're doing. So
I'll agree with 50% of that statement.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, we might have a couple more shots trickling in from the other units, but no, it looks like we are into the battle shock now. Nate has returned the single model and the lost 2 to coherency. So down to 5 out of 9 on those spirit hosts. So as we said, he will get a chance to bring another base back at the end of his battle shock. So pretty much it.
We'll get 2 in the hero, I think, automatically from Nagash. And
then true. Cause
yeah. And then he'll get 1 plus D3 wounds back or models. I don't remember. But it's a lot back. It could be the entire unit.
Yeah. So very inconsequential here. Quite interesting to see, and always good to see this and the mechanics in action. And with the returning capabilities, there is always the option of getting a little extra movement there too, right? Not that they're necessarily going to be whipping them forward into combat, but just, Nighthaunt often wants to just kind of creep up and take board control and zone out the opponent. Obviously want to protect Nagash here as well.
And against Deepkin, a lot of the time, you're either saying, I'm going to hold and weather until after that, so I can give away that turn 3, or, where they can't do anything. Or you're trying to do the other and just make it so that turn 3 does nothing. By kind of clearing as many bodies early as you possibly can. It's just really, you want to be in a position where you're not stuck in combat, where they can give you the turn and then take their own turn afterwards.
Yeah.
It looks like Nate has chosen Ferocious Advance, shockingly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in this mission because of the ruling. You're really limited on what battle tactics you can do early. Sure. I was thinking about what possible one are we going to get out of the shark player here, because Nate can do a monstrous takeover. I don't know that
round 2. Yep.
Yeah, so he can hang out, but what are you going to do what are your thoughts on what you try to do as a shark player? I
Yeah.
guess you go try to kill a battle line or something.
Well, there's the battle line. There is one for like sharks to kill a unit. I don't remember off the top of my head what the restrictions on that are. If it's just Allopetus have to kill a unit, it could just be that simple. But that is one of the unique custom ones. But I don't know on their round 2 that they're really going to be able to do that. Maybe with those single sharks, there's one at the top and looks like one at the bottom. From the Shiver, that they could whip those guys just over the half of the battlefield to get Savage Spearhead is an option. Then not
for shadow. It's midpoint territories on this.
Yeah. So could do that. Might have to run those 2 sharks, but I mean 14-inch movement is not too slow.
Looks like so we've got a Mystic Shield, Shade Mist on Mystic Shield on Nagash, Shade Mist on the Spirit Host, and then Nagash has Miscast.
Oh wow,
which is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, that's actually huge. So we're not going to see like the spamming of the arcane bolts this round, which again potentially just 5d3 mortal wounds. Could have been pretty wild when Nagash gets in, but not seeing that.
Offense or defense.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really good. That mechanic in this edition, I love that you just hang on to them. It's such a different, tactical thing where you can say, oh, you want to come kill my monster next turn? That's the only battle tactic you have? Well, good luck.
John in the chat also is giving us a shout out of Predators of the Deep. So that's if a shark kills a unit with a wounds characteristic of 8 or more, but they have suffered no wounds. So that's pretty much only Nagash on the battlefield that would work for. Which again, assuming that Nate doesn't hang Nagash out to dry, probably not achievable next round.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're gonna be able to get there. Although I guess they could do it in shooting, theoretically.
But might be a tough one.
yeah. So you're saying I have a chance.
Yeah. But sometimes when there's no other achievable battle tactics, you go for those long shots. If you're not throwing a battle tactic away that you could achieve later, might not hurt to try.
Yeah, I'd imagine with where those hosts, with the bottom hex rates there, that could be something you'd go after for broken ranks, setting yourself up for a Savage Spearhead, or Conquer, or what have you later on.
Yeah, but yeah, you really obviously he started working on those Spirit Hosts, but like we said, by the time he we get around to another Deepkin turn 2, it's going to be a full unit again, or one model off at most.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So it's like, as you mentioned earlier, you want to be taking out a unit in full, and it's going to be tough unless you're leveraging all your combat from those sharks to take out those Spirit Hosts in one turn.
Yeah, that's I would have probably wanted to try to ignore them until turn 3.
But noteworthy though, they were probably the only shooting option. Maybe he could have been a few inches closer to shoot past them into that center unit of Hex Wraiths, but also with Deepkin, you don't want to get stuck in combat, especially as something ethereal. You don't attrition as well, especially if Nagash can come in over top or from behind and slap around as well with those arcane bolts. It's definitely scary. He's the Deepkin player wants to be able to choose the engagements.
Yeah, absolutely. You could just get stuck on this army.
Yep. But Nagash there balancing, maybe not so brave, but up towards the top, so not super screened off. Nate's obviously confident that with his positioning there that he's not too threatened, but there's the one shark at top, 3 in the middle, probably the only things that could even have a chance of getting close enough to him.
Yeah, the king is not close enough yet to try to go solo that. And without this is the moment you'd want to try to do that. But he's measured that off, and you could make a really long charge maybe.
Yep, and worth noting too, there is the it is high or flood tide next round, so he will be running and charging. So potentially it's a 20-inch move if he uses a ferocious advance, or sorry, at the double.
Yeah, that's true. So he could get over there.
And did Lotan use his once per game ability in the first round?
He did a ritual, but I don't.
That was probably just the generic ritual, which was the +1 to run and charge actually. So that king could be moving 21 inches and charging up to 13 inches. But obviously here we've seen the Hex Wraiths, with the old rules still being able to teleport. I assume with the that was from the other Nighthaunt hero, but just clogging up the center of the board, landing right in the way of where that Italian Caden would want to be going.
Yeah, that's got this pretty much screened off on going for Nagash with pretty much anything except for that lone shark, which I personally wouldn't recommend.
Not the most effective, use.
No. And it looks like the fish have won the turn roll.
Okay, so that's it for Nate's turn then. Looks like it's going to be another 4 points. So we are tied at the end of the first round. And like you said, priority going to the Idoneth Deepkin again. So it'll be interesting to see what battle tactic he does end up going for here.
Yeah. I guess you choose that unit's right in front of you and try to kill it. Even fitting those sharks though with that terrain is going to be really hard.
Yeah, it can definitely be a nuisance.
And they just put out the unit. There we go. Looks like the spirit hosts are down to 1 base missing now.
Yeah. And unless he goes in there, I mean, you could try and take out the spirit host this turn. You're not attacking first yet, but with a bunch of shooting and then leveraging a unit of 3 to fight first, probably not too worried about casualties coming back at you. So that's
You could also use the king this turn, if you wanted to try to clear them.
Yep, that's true. You could probably get at least the 2 units, the spirit host and the Hex Wraiths within 3. Doesn't look like those heroes, unless you make a big charge and jump over top of them, could potentially be getting 4 units within that 3 inches if you somehow manage to get like towards that battle of the objective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be really interesting to see what. I mean, I guess the Nagash is a problem, but those 5 in the bottom there are pretty out on their own.
Yep.
They might be able to get over there and pick them up, or looks like it's a conquer on that point. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good one. And that objective is going to be there for 2 turns. And if he can take it and hold on to it, that could be a big points advantage. Also forcing Nate to either, abandon it and be down in points for a couple rounds, or trying to pull him out of position to deal with it.
He's so low body though that to get that, he's going to leave his own very open.
Very true.
And so they might have a classic switch, where they're just on each other's sides.
Yeah, you got to think those 3 sharks in the center probably, are going to go to one of the objectives, and if he's sending the other 3 across the board, it's going to be Deepkin again, low body count here, like we've been saying, and it is going to be tough for him to hold his own objectives, especially with how aggressive Nate has been towards the center of the table.
Our chat fish expert has pointed out that you, with the ritual for +2 and the battle mage for +2 and the run and charge, you have some really, really long reach on all of these for the IDK player this turn.
Yep. Yeah, potentially up to +4 to charge in total, with +1 to run as well. So Or it's +2 to run and charge, actually, is it
Yeah,
not for
it's plus
the
3
battle
to run,
mage?
+4 to
Yeah,
charge.
so it could be 23-inch movement and +4 to charge. That sounds not too bad.
This is not too bad. Yeah.
The downside is, though, Nagash is probably in unbind range.
Yeah. Yeah. And he will go ahead. It does look like he succeeded in a Mystic Shield, though.
Okay, well, so not going for obviously here he's not thinking like we are whipping his king in there to just leave him to die. But again, if he's going for conquer, it makes sense, not to throw stuff into the center. And yeah, I don't know. Broken Ranks could have been an option. Conquer, we'll see how this plays out. But Broken Ranks and maybe trying to go into the Spirit Host or something with everything could maybe have been, left him a little more defensive on his own objectives or felt a little more in control. But you got to do something, and it's still those Spirit Hosts. Again, we're talking about the ward saves. If he just rolls moderately above average on his ethereal saves and then ward saves, you could just not kill those Spirit Hosts quite easily.
Yeah, and if there's one left, he gets to choose the order of his bringing back. So he'll bring some back, then get a rally, then get the 2 back. Then it's a stack of them back, because when they get down lower, that rally becomes worthwhile.
Yep, it's big, and yeah, when you can bring back multi-wound models with a rally, it's just devastating.
Yeah, I've been trying it with my trolls. I can never get it.
Well, we did see, so with the new Sylvaneth book coming out, they just Dane's Workshop just teased some of the new rules, and the Bug Riders rally on a 5-up with their musician, and they're 5 wounds each. So that'll be juicy.
Yeah, and 3-inch coherency too.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, do they have that as well?
Yeah.
Nice, I love it. They're on those weird round bases, but that'll be very interesting. So definitely, potentially tying stuff up. But there was rumor of them getting like extra damage on the charge, like cavalry often does, but not mentioned in the article at all. So interesting to see them at like Ren 2 1 damage. Now fighting first on the charge, but at 1 damage, that's not a lot of output.
No, and I think that they're essentially just going to be a really, really annoying screen.
Yeah.
I haven't seen points cost yet, but as long as it's relatively reasonable, that's just obnoxious to get around.
Yeah, it could be a very annoying unit. Also, if they slay a model, they heal back to full in terms of wounds applied, not bringing back models, but healing wounds from models. So that could be really annoying if you leave 1 on a 1 wound and he just heals 4 wounds back. Definitely annoying to deal with. But we'll see. All depends on the Legion's abilities and whatnot with the new new Sylvaneth book. So that's the big question.
So it looks like a small redeploy here on the Hex Wraiths.
I don't know if just trying to block off the objective a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, maybe some positioning, scooting over. But I think all of those are going to get in with. It's got +2 to charge this turn.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, if he can manage to keep 2 or 3 bodies on the objective and alive, yeah, he only needs to get 2 sharks on there to outnumber 3 guys. So she'll be able to do it. I feel pretty confident that SMN, will be able to get this battle tactic.
Yeah, trying to get like around Hex Wraiths and that terrain could be a little tricky, but it just doesn't have to do it with that many models, and so I wouldn't worry about it. It'll really depend on that unit of 3 sharks. If they have a terrible charge, potentially he'll choose the damage instead and just try to remove them that way.
Yep. Yeah, we see those 3 sharks kind of as expected, pivoting towards the bottom here, so away from the dash, not ready to get, wanting to get into combat with him yet, or any of the other ghosties, but reinforcing the bottom objective. I mean, those spirit hosts are to be primed to just pop up to that top left objective, you know, on Nate's turn.
You could just walk over there. You know, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You know, Nagash could probably just cast enough arcane bolts to pick up that shark, and you walk onto the objective.
You just touch it with one base. Yep.
Yeah.
Or even, I guess even that, with that, it's only 3 bases to take it from the shark. It does count as 2 models, but you have that many spirit hosts, it's not too hard. And it looks like the king is whipping forward. Again, run in charge here. So we're going to get the king in there as well. Definitely should help, you know, clear that unit pretty effectively. So still, I guess, always dicey though with those, again, ethereal saves here against Deepkin.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice though. You need just as many attacks as possible.
Yep. And he wasn't going to throw his king in anywhere else, so might as well, you know, leverage him somewhere. Ensure you can take that bottom objective, get your battle tactic. So big on this mission when you are often very even on points in the early rounds.
Yeah. This is who can score the late rounds or sneak some early and then trade back and forth.
Yep.
And he's gonna, you know, if he gets that point, he's gonna get the conquer and 1-2 more, which is big. That's an extra point that you're not getting, and you're putting pressure on Nate to come take back some points.
Yep.
He has to go take back 2 rather than trying to take back just 1.
Does look like he's positioned the 1 shark kind of in the, you know, very close to a bunch of the Nighthaunt, probably just hoping he gets in the way more than anything. And tossing actually the battle mage up towards the top with that lone shark. So putting 4 bodies on there.
Yep.
Making it a little bit tougher for Nate to take that objective back, and moving the shark back as well. Again, so he can't as easily get into it and take it out. Deepkin always, you know, good to be very careful with them, and, you know, very much a glass cannon army.
I think, you know, that's a good thought to put as much as you can there. There's still easily enough spirit hosts for a CP to just run under the point. But it does mean that you know, Nate ends up pretty spread out. And, you know, part of this might also be, hey, next turn's turn 3. I want my stuff to be able to come in. You know, if the IDK player had bottom, he's going to send everything in and try to, you know, get multiple turns. If he doesn't, you know, you want to actually think about avoiding for the Nighthaunt player here. So you're going to try to take points without fighting as much as possible.
Yep. And yeah, it's always that risk reward mechanic with the priority again being such an awesome and impactful rule for the first strategy of the game. You want to be in a point where S-Man with Deepkin, he can leverage it if given the turn. You know, or if he wins the turn, he wants to be able to leverage that high tide, but not be too close, but not too far away. You know, you try to straddle that line, which can be a little difficult sometimes depending on the opponent, but it is a big turn, but not always made, you know, you don't always have to go all in on high tide or anything. It just is a strong tool for you there.
So it looks like there's shooting is probably beginning here. You know, I assume you're just going to dump everything into your target until the point, because you use the smaller units first, you can decide about the larger unit. And you know, picking up a hex rate there, unless everything's going into those hex rates, you know.
I think that was from the top left Alpex, so might have just been not in range. Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, spreading out shots might not be the worst idea either, because I mean, he's probably got enough stuff to deal with those in combat. Maybe you put a couple sharks into the bottom unit of hex wraiths just to soften it up a little bit. You know, take out 2 maybe, and then try and dump as much shooting as you can into the other units.
Yeah, so you maybe target that middle one just to take it off. I kind of thought he was maybe trying to get that. He was going to tag that Hex Wraith unit in the center and the Spirit Host with a charge. Um, the Spirit Hosts, because they do mortals, are pretty swingy, and it's a lot of attacks each. But I don't see them picking up a Shark solo.
No, especially if he can charge into those Hex Wraiths on the edge and just tag them, on the edge of 3, only letting maybe one Spirit Host get into combat.
Yeah.
That's a smart play. Could definitely be very effective with that single Shark to keep Nighthaunt tied up.
Yeah, Nate could still, for a CP, I think, just pick it up and put it over on that point.
True.
But, it limits him to not doing that somewhere else. It just puts pressure on.
And forces bigger charges, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I like it.
And so let's see where he's going next. I imagine he puts one more Shark into those guys, or maybe the 3 in the back. Yeah.
Looks like another Hex Wraith has been lifted. Not sure where that shooting came from. Obviously one of the Sharks or some of the Sharks, but
yeah, it came from a Shark.
Yeah. Nine Sharks is what? 9, 18, 27, 36 shots at D3 damage.
It's a lot of shooting. Kind of fascinating that the anti-shooting army, a lot of the builds you see are heavy shooting.
Yep.
I like the Thrall thing though. It's Thrall thing.
Oh, I do. Thralls were the reason I got into the army, fell in love with the army. Those, the Thralls and Reaver models are just incredible. I'm excited. I'm testing out later today a 40 Thrall, 40 Reaver build. So I'm super excited for that. Definitely gonna have some fun.
One of the notes I've gotten is this was, they were playing this game with a lot of intent, which is the right way to play Warhammer.
Yep.
Intent with, you have to be very clear what that means so that people don't go a little too far with it. But, it's measuring things with the, down to the millimeter. You can play that way. My preference is, declared intent is where you're at.
Yep. Stating, when a unit's outside of 3, lets you not have to measure or micromanage, but it's important. One big note with intent, and again, like you said, it is a great way to play. You do want to be clear in mentioning that intent up front. Intent doesn't work when you say, "Oh, this was my intent." After the fact, you do have to mention that, up front.
Declared intent from the beginning.
Exactly.
Is what I mean by that.
Yeah. And just a note for new players, because you want to mention that stuff, because then your opponent has the opportunity to either confirm or like, oh no, this isn't. I don't see this at the same way, and you guys can work out that work through that at the preemptively before it becomes an issue.
Yeah. And I'm guessing one of those big Shark units has just picked up a lot of Hex Wraiths.
Yep. So 11 damage dealt from the bottom 3 Sharks. Yeah.
All right, so that's good, and that's just that swinginess again.
I would, as a Deepkin player, I would love to see all the Hex Wraith units taken out this turn. Effectively leaving him with a couple heroes, and Nagash and the Spirit Host would basically be the main pieces left.
Yeah, it's the right move. It's a little bit of a gamble, and you can see there's 2 in the middle and 1 behind a piece of terrain in the back, which is just going to completely return.
I do think that red one in the center is also one of them, because he only has the 2 heroes in his list, so that's got to be
so it's 3.
Yeah, so it's 3. A unit champion or something.
Yeah, it's a special one.
He's got a nice fancy red cape.
Yeah, that's the leader.
So we have seen, looks like the Akkelian King did make his charge into combat, jumping over the Sharks.
Yeah, and this is again, going to be swingy, but with this amount of attacks, I think you're probably going to have enough to pull those off. And then it's going to be a really interesting turn from Nate on that.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how he answers. And like we said, with taking his bottom right objective and taking out a lot of the other Hex Wraiths as well, he's going to be having a hard time. Like, sure, he can jump up and take an objective, but when you're, when you want to take 3 for that hold more, he's going to have a bit of a tough time, I think.
An interesting thing here that, I would think about is with that, with those sharks, with their coherency, you could tag and then with your pile pretty much screen off at one side of the objective. You just would be relying on the king and that other shark to clear the whole unit, which is, this is the safer play. But, using that 3-inch coherency is going to be really powerful as people get more used to it.
Sure. And with the, you probably, like you said, are going to maybe leverage the other. Yeah, it's tough because you want to leverage the 3 sharks all fighting. And if you don't activate with them first, with casualties, that top shark, at least of those 3, might not get into combat. Again, they only have 1-inch range. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was almost suggesting you have only one of them fight.
Yeah.
The one on the bottom took damned at the beginning. And so it's got an automatic +1. So who's going to be able to use CP on something else? Yep. And so the sharks are going to be, there's going to be a lot of save rolls to make, a lot of 4-ups. I love these sticks he has.
Yep.
I need to get like a whole kit of those.
Yeah, we saw actually last round Michael with his Daughters of Cain using those sticks like very practically laying them down for movement and then putting a stick as a T at the top and moving all his models up to that line. I am such a big fan of measuring on the table with sticks and rulers because it's just the most accurate way when you're measuring bases to bases for charges or movement or whatnot. And I love seeing these sticks. I have a ton of 9-inch gauges that I use, 9 and 3s, but I think after seeing these guys play, I'm definitely gonna invest in getting some of everything from 1 to or 2 to 10 inches or something, just so you have a good variety and you can really be super precise.
I went wild for my Iron Jaws and made 15s and 18s. The 18s are not super useful, but the 15 is actually really helpful.
Nice. So here, it looks like that shark has charged into those 3 Hex Wraiths. Wonder if he'll end up tagging the Spirit Hosts. Not sure.
Guessing he's going to pile into them.
Yeah. Yep, would make sense. So yeah, we'll see that, this is looking like it's going to be a strong turn too from the Deepkin.
Yeah, get your tactic, get an extra point. I like that the shark models are just out there swimming around somewhere.
Yeah, just thematically. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting who he goes first with. I don't think that I would, if the intent is to tag those Spirit Hosts, I would probably pile in that shark to tag them immediately, which means all the measuring out is not that important, because those Hex Wraiths will be able to significantly block off the ability to tag them in a minute.
Yeah.
So I'd say probably
it did look like he went back. Yeah, it did look like he went back and made sure it was within 3.
Okay.
So that probably just doing that on the charge. But yeah, that's we'll assume he's going to go in with the combat in the bottom right.
Yeah, you just start with the king and just see what happens. Yep.
It sounds like from our table boss Josh is saying that the king has chosen not to use his once per game high tide ability. So not granting D3 units fight first, which I think is the right choice. He doesn't need it here. He'd rather have next turn and potentially turn 4, turn 5 to leverage extra attacks with the king, or fight first. But here, I think he's in a position where he's going to be pretty effectively, probably crippling this unit, without needing to use that ability.
I think he's got it down there, but again, it's still 4-ups. You can.
Very true.
You roll a little under average, they roll a little over average, and you've been cut down wildly. So looks like he is going with that shark in the middle, probably.
Into the hex wraiths.
Yep, and this right looks like the 5-up has been put on them. And so that's the right move. Keep those, let them come back as a full unit. Not be worried about, having too many units of hex wraiths disappear in one turn.
Yeah.
And I like seeing those tough crowd dice in that corner there.
A bunch of them from Nate. Obviously, Nate, part of the tough crowd, and Esteban from the Dallas Defenders, so one of the local Texas teams or crews. I mean, I'm sure you've played down in Texas a couple times, Noah, or run into some of these guys. But man, they have such a cool scene, having such vibrant communities in 4 major cities. Makes for cool tournament, and rivalries with them and the Texas Masters was cool to see when I was down there.
It's fantastic. The Texas Warhammer is so fun. I really like how into it they are. Although I was a little insulted that I was 14th on their Masters rankings this year and was not invited.
I guess probably a stipulation of you have to live in Texas.
yeah, my lack of being a Texan.
Yeah. It is funny though, and yeah, great to see though, right? Just a vibrant community like that. We were talking about it the other day. I'd love to see some more communities in Ontario really thriving. The GTA is, I think, really one of the big hubs in North America. If you looked at 10 major cities with great scenes, Toronto's definitely up there, but not a ton of regular events outside of that, like the Toronto area.
So you weren't talking about Grand Theft Auto?
I was not. No, this is correct. Yeah. Greater Toronto area for the uninformed.
Yeah, so it looks like the middle shark completely whiffed, and the hex wraiths are going, kind of splitting attacks, blocking off some pile from that king. I still think the sharks are going to be already has enough on the point.
Yeah.
But again, it's different because there's no healing in this shark list, so some wounds here and there can later on be a big problem.
Oh, for sure, definitely. But yeah, looks like
the horses, some wounds going out. That might be the bloodthirsty thing. I don't know. I can't tell what that token is, but maybe it's a wound counter.
Yeah. So those hex wraiths did use all out attack. Sounds like taking 7 wounds off of a shark, so 6 wounds, leaving one with 2 wounds left. So yeah, that's a big chunk. Maybe I think that marker is like a 2 out of 8. It looks like upside down from us, but
oh, gotcha. Yeah, it'll be interesting. That's pretty good damage off.
That's great, yeah.
And that means picking up those sharks is going to be much easier. I wonder if we see Nagash change direction here, and instead of going across the board, he kind of goes into the middle and picks up a bunch of those sharks. Just to make those last turns, just every one of those that disappears is more of a problem in those last couple turns.
Yep.
And we're seeing a couple hex wraiths get picked up there. There's a couple left, but lots of attacks still. Oh, and there they go. And it's going to be some pile-ins in the bottom, but the rest of this is going to be spooky ghost time. So 3 Hex Wraiths, they won't have all-out attack, but there's still potential for mortals. Great hairline seeing there, Nate.
So that Hex Wraith unit dead. Again, there's that single Hex Wraith in the back. 3 left of this, 1 unit. So he's definitely whittling down the Hex Wraiths. And not a ton of units in either of these armies. So it's going to be tough to take and contest objectives for both of them.
Yeah, we've yet to see the big, Big Daddy in back there.
Yep.
Walk out. I think he probably just kept him conservative because of that miscast on the first turn.
For sure. Yeah, no point in putting him up aggressively when he doesn't have any arcane bolts.
Nope. No, it slaps in combat, but I wonder. There's probably almost enough damage depending on what happens here to get pretty close on picking up that lone shark, which that's the other problem with the tagging strategy because of how the phases work.
Yeah.
He can string these over, bring one back towards the point, and then just pick that up if it's on pretty low wounds with a couple mortals in the hero phase, and then all that tagging is for nothing.
Yeah.
But the Spirit Hosts are actually piling that way.
Yeah, and how much did those Hex Wraiths do? Did he say? It looks like they've done a couple damage. So yeah, if we see that chart go down here, oh no, just see a marker thrown down. It looks like 1 out of 8 health remaining on that chart after the Hex Wraiths and Spirit Hosts have gone.
Not that much.
No, they are. He's still alive. That's a positive, but not doing a whole ton otherwise.
Yeah, should be sitting there.
Yeah, so like you said, but I don't know. Now Nadash's placement is kind of on the terrain, and the players have it just marked. But it will be interesting if he is in that arcane bolt range, just chipping those wounds. And we just saw a Hex Wraith, so we must be in battle shot now. Just 1 Hex Wraith has been brought back in battle shot, so that unit of 1 is now a unit of 2.
Yeah.
Only 5 of 15 of those Hex Wraiths still on the board here.
Yeah, and that unit's going to go up to 4 from Nagash. That Spirit Host is going to come back, and then the other unit's going to go to 5. So, there's low bodies, but picking up that whole unit is a great move.
Definitely. So we will be going into Nighthaunt turn 2. And 5 points there for the Idoneth Deepkin, putting them up to 9-4. So a bit of an advantage. And yeah, we're going to have to see Nighthaunt, make some solid plays to keep even on the score here. I don't see them being able to hold more. Unless, I guess, if Nagash is able to take out that unit of 3 on the bottom and just touch the objective, that could be possible. I mean, I guess, Nagash definitely has, if he can get a bunch of arcane bolts off, has the capability to take out that unit, but does that put him too danger close with a priority loss between the king, that single shark, and the other 3-pack?
Yeah, that's a lot of the power, and it's all on that side of the board. So, I imagine you're going to back up, take that other back point, and wait to see what Prio looks like.
Yep. And worth noting too, actually, even if he does not get hold more, he could keep even on points with something like Broken Ranks. With that Shart is on 1 wound, so if you can pop a mortal with Nagash, that's pretty effective getting a bonus point because Nagash is a monster.
I think we're hearing that that's exactly what's happening.
Oh, look at that. I feel so smart.
I think we just got notified that.
Awesome. Well,
So
we've seen two Hex-Rays come back here.
yeah, so that unit's back up to full. The other unit's on 4. Battle Shock, once again, there'll be the ability to just put that back up to a 5, and those cavalry bases could be a great screen for frustrating the Idoneth player here.
Yep.
And then these, there's also mortals when those ghosts move, right? So the hex rates are going to be able to add some mortals to bring that down a little bit. And so you could do it without Nagash, and then just finish it off with one or a couple of the arcane bolts. But I'm guessing he's going to go for the absolutely guaranteed, monster point here.
Yeah, makes sense.
Keep it even.
And just so impactful that that one unit of Hex-Ray survived with that one model. Back to 4 now is pretty big, right? Like, you don't want that kind of recursion against Nighthaunt. We talked about how you really want to eliminate units, so not getting that extra 2 damage to finish off that unit. Now it's back up to 8 wounds. So
looks like he didn't even need the arcane bolts. Did it with Soul Stealer.
Nice. That's to be that monster point there. Yep.
Yep. And we're hearing in the chat that Nate Gentlemanly was playing with the handicap of forgetting that he got mortals on his move, which it's really nice of him to do.
You know what? Funny enough, I played a game of Nerdle with Carl the other day, and the Blight Kings and Blight Lords do mortal wounds if they roll over a wounds characteristic at the end of combat.
Yeah.
I have played I played Nerdle at least like 6 to 8 times, and nobody has ever used that ability against me. I literally was so surprised it existed because nobody had ever used it, right? So there are those lots of rules in the game. It's easy to forget little things here and there, even for top players. But man, like I was mind blown playing against Carl that they had that rule. Just even more mortal wound chipping from Nerdle.
Yeah, that's part of if you add up the mortals and the the end of phase mortals, the charge mortals, those some flies can just completely clear one wound block.
Oh yeah, yep. So definitely a strong ability. Lots of rules as always in this game. We saw in our last game featured a newer player who was there's always things to learn and get better at in terms of rules and all that. So nothing wrong with that. It's part of the game, especially with new players helping each other get better. But so easy to forget, one little rule in the minutia of everything going on.
Looks like we've got a portal getting put out here, which is
spicy.
yeah. And we're going to be measuring, that 18. I don't know.
Doesn't look like the King's in range.
The King's not in range, but that middle shark, I wonder if they're in coherency. Either way, that shark has taken a lot of wounds, and picking that one up.
They still it is the 3-inch coherency, so I think they're fine on that front. But yeah, that's 8 wounds gone, leaving only 10 in the unit left.
Yeah, and that's pretty big.
Thankfully, yeah, it was not the King though, for Esteban's sake.
Yeah, but if you look at the board state right now, assuming that those probably go away, you're looking at 5 sharks and 2 heroes after that unit goes, and that is very hard to hold a point with.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to use the you don't have stuff either strategy rather than you just piling them all on at the end of the game.
And going, these spirit hosts actually going for that bottom left objective. Smart play here. The top left one was obviously the easy one to get, but here you're not only able to get the objective here if Nate can outbody, but you're also getting into one of the bigger units that the Deep can have left, and you can take an objective and deal with a threat at the same time. That's awesome, right?
Yeah, this is for the Vice. This has been a very aggressive game so far.
Yep.
There's a lot of the time it's a 2-turn staring match, and then you start moving up. But it's bottom of 2, and you've got a little bit more time with those objectives sitting in the corners.
Mm-hmm.
Now he can just take that point in the back with a teleport or a move with the 5 hex wraiths. So I doubt he even bothers with trying to fight up in that top left corner.
Yep. I would agree, and keeps his power all central. But yeah, this is not if that one shard I think hadn't have taken so much damage on Esteban's turn, we could have see it survive at least into the movement phase. Could have been big. But I guess even with the arcane bolts, right, it has the potential. Nana Ash is going to unleash them at the start of movement. So yeah, one shark was going to have a tough time trying to keep those tied up, but would have been nice if he could have.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting. And then I'm going to go ahead and predict that we see that spell portal disappear again in once the turn order next turn gets resolved.
Yeah, and noteworthy, Nagash does have 2 arcane bolts charged up. In addition to some other spells and spell portal hand to dust, like we saw, he has also cast Mystic Shield on himself. So that +1 to save being big in our lovely save stacking meta.
I think it's somewhat going away.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of
definitely getting better.
Yeah, a lot of volume of attacks coming out. Stuff like the Nurdle flies that we mentioned. Daughters of Cain now, Nighthaunt. There's a lot of stuff where there's more volume of attacks, low damage, and when you're adding +3 to your save rolls, but your opponent doesn't have any rend, it's really only +1, right?
Right, it's a huge waste of time. Yeah.
And even
now, 2-up safe models are still.
Yes, yeah. But hey, even a bunch of clan rats, lots of attacks, you're gonna roll some 1s.
Yeah, it'll put some through, and cheap massed units. It's my personal favorite way to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
I love when the meta is the individual movement and piles of those units. But that might be just a personal sickness.
Yeah. Very well could be.
So interesting. He's moving Nagash up.
Are you trying to get into those sharks?
Yeah, he might just be saying, I don't care about your turn 3 because you don't have anything left.
Yeah. See, if he could get into those sharks, it looks like he's measuring mortal wounds for the arcane bolts at least. I mean, he's got 2. He can definitely take out another shark.
Yeah, and what'll be interesting is you can leave those and do them in battle shock too. So
yes,
or if he's already in range, he doesn't make the charge. He can still ping off that shark.
Well, I think actually a heads up play because sharks do only rally on 6s. If you kill it and it goes to Esteban turns, that's 2 chances out of 6 is not unlikely for him to pop a shark back. But if you wait until after the your opponent's hero phase to pop that final 1, doesn't get the benefit of that extra rally dice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all with that. It's all staging, which is fascinating. What does that look like? A 9-inch or so? It's a longer charge.
Yeah,
I
think it was it looked like a 10 or 11 maybe.
And then it's interesting that he didn't teleport anything up to the top there. But I think he's probably thinking long game. Already got his battle tactic. Already, going to be fine on points as long as he can get 2, and is just saying, fine, you can have a shark and a hero up there.
Yeah, they're just ignored and effectively not going to be doing too much. I guess the shark can probably whip down with that 14-inch movement, but not going to be super effective. A lone shark.
And it looks like we have pretty good charge here on these spirit hosts.
Sadly,
and so they're just going to be stuck there.
Only 1-inch range though on their attacks, so they will only have those 5 guys fighting, but that's going to be 30 attacks, right, with mortal wounds on 6s.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
expect
and
yeah, at least
pull a shark.
Exactly, at least 5 mortal wounds on average. And likely a shark going down. Great shout.
And getting those spirit hosts out of the way, you're not going to kill them all, so you have probably put yourself in a position where you're just not gonna ever get those sharks out.
Yeah.
They're stuck. And this is fun. So this is, I'm guessing, Nagash using the reroll. Yeah.
Doesn't make his charge in there. Ooh, that looks like a big roll. It's like 2 tough crowd symbols facing up. And again, this is the old Nighthaunt book, so we're not getting any debuffs as this unit charges in, but it is going to get to fight immediately. And I mean, even the hex rays, we saw that one unit with like 3 or 4 models deal 6 damage to a shark. You think a full unit fighting and then getting to activate again, fighting twice, they'll probably have a good shot at taking out those sharks completely.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming the mortals, it looks like that's 12 to the second shark as well for those 2 arcane bolts, and it's the bottom of the round, so it's gonna release them.
Yeah, that's.
I would guess it's the beginning of combat. They releases them.
Yeah, that would make sense at this point. But yeah, it's looking like a pretty solid turn 2 response here for Nighthaunt. Honestly, I felt like it was a pretty solid turn from Deepkin, but yeah, the attrition and again the ethereal is a big strength of Nighthaunt here. A lot of rend 2 on the bites from the sharks, rend 1 on all the shooting, but it doesn't matter against ethereal. And while Nate has been losing a ton of models, he's only lost 1 unit and basically been bringing all the other units back to full health each turn.
Yeah, they're just back, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the having overkill is really, really important with that.
For sure. Man, this really makes me want to. I love this list. Watching Nate play it, it definitely makes me want to try it out on the channel sometime soon. We've had a bunch of Nighthaunt actually games that we're playing and filming, so we'll have lots of showcases of the new book. I don't know how the Nagash list would fare in the transfer. I don't know if there's any big changes that impact it.
I don't think he gets anything from it anymore. But I don't.
I haven't looked into it myself. Yeah.
And so not going again with them because there's nothing in combat. He's going to probably try to pile and put a couple on the king. Although you may just leave it out.
True. But you don't want him on the charge though.
Yeah, that's true. So because, you just tie him up, and even if your stuff dies, the likelihood he pulls all 5 is low. Very
low. Yep. Especially no high tide, so no extra attacks here. And those sharks, it looks like, are going into the unit of hex rays with all out attack and Lotan's there for the +1 to wound. But I guess the wraiths are going first. Yep, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's because that's in the charge phase. He now gets to go
activate. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am surprised a little bit to see both those sharks lifted just from the charge fight. But I mean, it's again, we said
it's a bucket of dice.
It is, yeah. And not great saves on the shark. There's no turtle nearby. They can't use all out defense in the charge phase. So
yeah, and this is Nate's bucket of dice. And it looks like he's got some mortals and quite a lot of hits, although I think they only went on 5s as well.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, we'll see how many shards go down from this unit. Roll a bunch of saves. Looks like Esteban's got those new GW Deepkin dice. Actually, some of the best dice they've made because they are easily legible from above.
It's a low bar though.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But they're not too bad. Sounds like though only 7 damage going into those shards, meaning no models slain, and all 3 are going to have to activate back. It's pretty big.
It'll pull some bases. We'll just be watching for that. See if he gets over pulling 4 of them.
Yep.
And Nate, I believe, has that back one outside of 3, and so if you do pull down to all of them, he can get them outside of combat for that rally, and he's got a hero sitting there to make sure they stay on Battle Shock.
Yep. Yep, always important. And again, old book, they're not, they are still able to use Inspiring Presence against Nighthaunt, so for the Deepkin side, but.
Yeah, I like that rule a lot.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've played Nighthaunt twice now, once with Luminath, once with Stormcast, and between Nighthaunt having it, Nerdult can turn off command abilities, Daughters of Cain can turn off command abilities, or Inspiring Presence at least. Yeah, like you're gonna really have to consider that a lot more now, especially for your Order armies, at least Order and Destruction. Because those bravery shenanigans are gonna be much more impactful, like than we've seen previously, right? With Battle Shock.
Yeah, and it's a great way to be doing something at the table that's completely different than other armies do.
Yeah.
Which makes the game more flavorful.
Sure.
I also love the the swinginess is still there of the charge things. You can get better and better depending on what happens. It looks like Lotan picked up a Spirit Host.
What a guy!
Putting them wholly in range to be saved in Battle Shock, though, which is you gotta attack them. So you nothing you can do about it. But
yeah, that octopus with Lotan's got 8 attacks on him, rend 1 damage. So not too shabby at all. But
Jordan, I think it's an Octar.
My apologies. But sounds like we are back to Nate's activation. Esteban's activation. Nate has chosen not to pile the Hex Wraiths into the King. So not wanting to take any hits there. It doesn't look like he. Wonder if he could have positioned with that big charge to potentially pile a couple bodies onto that objective and take it. Doesn't look like he can with his current positioning. Not sure if it would have been possible, but an interesting thing to think about in hindsight.
Double pile is super powerful if you can just go around something twice. It's really
well, they don't get the pile in on the charge phase fight. It's just a straight fight. So wherever
it's just a fight.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But if he because he did roll, I think it's 11 or 12 for that charge. If he had a positioned, I'm not sure if he could have positioned them any further, wrapping around those sharks. But it only would have needed, I guess it would have been, all 5 would have had to been on the objective with the pile in, so probably not possible.
Yeah. Although you could, just going into the King and like we were talking about earlier, is probably worthwhile anyway.
Yeah, just tag him, tie him up. He loses 1 rend and 1 damage on the charge, or when he's not on the charge.
Cool. Yeah, and so unfortunately, it appears that it's going to only have a 4-point turn because those hosts did actually take some damage.
Yeah, 13 damage from the sharks actually. So pretty solid there. It's like, bringing one back in battle shock, but still going to be only 4 points for him. Hold one, or just the hold one, and then the battle tactic with a monster for 4 points. And we are going to be into a big priority here.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting because, again, this is that fight first turn. And so, it's an interesting choice who they decide to fight. If they want to go fight twice, go into it, he's in a really great position to sit here for any other army and, just score those points again. And so it'll be kind of a fascinating choice if IDK wins it.
Yeah.
And that's a 6.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, what do you do here if you are Deepkin? Like, you have that bottom right objective. It's like, do you try and kill the Hex Wraiths and let the Sharks deal with the Spirit Hosts? That would secure you. You're already going to have hold 2, hold more, as long as there's no monumental failures, from the dice or anything on the Deepkin side.
Now, an interesting thing here is you've got those 2 arcane bolts sitting on Nagash. Nagash can also stomp. If that king tries to go into Nagash here, there's, you need some help. But that's 3d3. That's enough to pick up a king.
Yeah, I don't think he can risk that.
Without it even getting to fight. That's something I've really enjoyed doing with the big stumps from Bog Crushers.
Yeah, very scary for sure. And thinking Nagash does have that Mystic Shield, so he could effectively be +2 to save, bringing him to a 4-up save at worst. You can't rely on your king to do all that work, I don't think.
No. But I don't quite know what else you do. The bodies are disappearing, and so I guess you try to clear the Hex Wraiths, and
it's
the Spirit Hosts.
Yeah, maybe you go for the Spirit Torment too, because it's been so monumental bringing wounds back.
Yeah.
So maybe you throw the king, because there are 2 units over there for the Hex Wraiths, or with the Spirit Torment, so you could be plus, a couple attacks from those 2 units. Maybe the king can also tag within 3 of those Hex Wraiths, the Spirit Hosts. Be +6 attacks. And if the Shark go over, they might be able to clear the Spirit Torment and those center Hex Wraiths. The only thing you're risking there is a redeploy from the Hex Wraiths, taking that bottom right objective away from you.
Yeah, which is for sure a long one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it probably need at least, if you abandon that objective, it's probably only a 2 or 3 he needs to roll to take that objective away.
Yeah, if both leave. Yeah, for sure.
And we'd also have that Shark in the top left as well. You could potentially see that Battle Mage adding the +2 to charge on it, so it's going to have a chance to get towards the center as well.
Yeah, and you're going to keep that point, probably, although teleporting army, you maybe don't want to abandon it completely. But this is when you crash the boards right in the middle, right?
Yeah.
You want to be going into that turn with the objective moving to you. It denies a conquer too, because you don't actually hold it until the end of that turn. And so if you're just there, there's not an easy battle tactic. And then on top of it, there's, you're in the right position to deny holding it, which is as important as holding it in the last 2 turns of this mission.
For sure. And what else? Deepkin's not out of it though. I think they've definitely been put on the back foot after that turn and being tied up, but remaining in control of the objectives was big for scoring. And if they're able, what would be huge here, if they can clear that Hex Wraith unit in the center, the Spirit Torment and the Hex Wraiths, and the Spirit Hosts, that would be a huge, turn in response, which isn't impossible, I don't think, for the Deepkin to hope for.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be activation's always going to be interesting, but you have that fight with everything,
Yep.
and so
Yeah, exactly.
you probably just hit them all.
Yep. You know? Yep. Because those spirit hosts, yeah, it's like that one shark is still just limping there on one wound, but he's gonna get to shoot with all three of them into those spirit hosts, and then fight with all three of them as well. Yeah, we could see a good turn here out of the Deepkin. I'm very excited for this one actually, to see how this goes.
It's the minute you put it on your time and think, and yeah, torment's right out there. There's the redeploys are going to be could be difficult, but that's always the case.
Yep.
Right? Any army that has to charge.
Yep. Another great rule that they've added to the game. I think very, very interesting in terms of just like the back and forth, and it's a big risk reward mechanic too, because you often don't have a ton of extra CP, and if you roll a 1, it was largely wasted or irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely. I only roll 1s or 6s. I've never rolled anything else on that.
Yeah, that's how it goes, right?
Yeah,
mostly 1s.
Mostly 1s. Looks like he's going for Slay the Warlord on the Spirit Torment.
Okay, yeah, so I'm happy to see that. That's what I was hoping he would do. So what a smart decision out of Esteban.
You might kind of know what you're talking about.
Yeah, played Deepkin a couple times, that's for sure. But
yeah,
I'm never the full shark list, so it is very interesting to see how they do in this, and they haven't actually struggled too much for the low body count that they suffer from, because a Nighthaunt hasn't been super high body count here either, and it's only been a unit or two. Most of the stuff was in the center, so it's worked out in Deepkin's favor actually so far.
Yeah, and if they look low when you look, but you always remember that 6 bodies per shark unit.
Yep,
and that's really good.
Yep. One thing,
it's a nice balance because you can steal it from a single hero. You can get in there in places where 5-man units struggle.
and it looks like the king has gone for finest hour here, so obviously going to be big, given that +1 to wound, making him more reliable with his attacking is always big.
Yeah, and I think this is where from Nate, if you see him move anything else within 9 of that unit that's kind of that he's trying to go around here, he moves the shark first or whatever, you redeploy. If you see the king move first, you still redeploy that unit onto the point.
Yeah, you just redeploy the opposite way. But I think, the king does have to move first. He's the one you're relying on to get that damage.
Yeah. Yeah, so which is kind of you're losing a point which is worth 2 normally, but it's only going to be worth you're still going to hold 2, hold 1. It's going to reduce you by 1.
Yep.
Although there's one of those sharks is could disappear. It's only two 6s on Nate's part to get rid of that shark, and so there's potential that back one is kind of in danger now. With bodies coming back, if he rolls well on that, you could lose that point.
Yep. Yeah, here, and it looks like so the battle mage has cast the +2 to run and charge spell onto that single Elipect, so he's going to be having a better chance of getting in there.
Yeah, and he'll hit right at that shark could pick up a couple hex wraiths.
Yep. Oh, for sure, and even just the shooting getting in there. I really hope he's able to probably dump the shooting into the spirit host, because that's where just the volume of wounds is right now, and it's probably critical to free up those 3 sharks. You eventually want to be dancing, around, scoring the objectives. And I mean, if he can kill everything eventually and leave Nagash alive, he can still potentially compete. But going to be very interesting.
This is one of the few missions where Nagash standing in the middle is still a huge problem.
It is that round. What is round 4 and 5?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, his base is not quite big enough to screen the entire objective from the center.
No.
But it's pretty close.
Yeah, and 5 bodies though. That's the thing. Turn 4, if you go in there, you're danger close, and that's where you want. Yeah, you can lose some sharks if you're too close to Nagash. There hasn't been any opportunity to go for Nagash here with Nate, positioning well and then tying up those, 3 sharks with the Spirit Host right now, and the Hex Wraiths finishing off the other unit.
Yeah, I think he's going to say, I have a bunch of books and I'm going to pick up all of their scoring that I possibly can. So it looks like redeployed on the Spirit Torment.
Yep. Looks like we rolled a 1, as expected.
Yep.
So, not huge, not to be super impactful. Still probably only to be a 4-inch charge, and that's pretty comfortable.
Yep. And that shark on the side now is probably going to get in. Issue that you're going to have is Nate is up next, and you will have put a whole bunch of stuff in a blob, where Nagash can just say no thank you. And it appears that with that shark movement, it's not going to really go after those Hex Wraiths, that 5-man unit, which is big for scoring here.
Yeah, I think he has to go for the 4-man though and eliminate it, because I don't think the 1 shark will be able to do much to that 5-man by itself. And then even if he killed 2 Hex Wraiths, he's still going to be taking a bunch of wounds. So I don't mind that if he can eliminate the unit in the center. That does leave Nagash and 5 Hex Wraiths with the turn at the bottom of the round 3 and potential priority. Could be scary.
Could be scary. It's gonna be tight. This is an interesting matchup, because you're trying to preserve pretty small numbers of units on both sides. Yeah, and you've got a lot of shooting here.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No mortal wounds though for the Deepkin, which is obviously a weakness for Nighthaunt. But again, they're just mid-level saves that again can be super swingy, but not really going to keep you alive super long. I mean, effectively anyone with a 3-up save can easily be, or even a 4-up, can be ethereal with save stacking pretty reliably. At least against Ren 1, Ren 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's gonna be interesting. Yeah,
It looks
I
like
wonder.
We've seen a little shooting coming out and 1 damage to those Hex Wraiths in the middle from one of the sharks.
Yes, we got the 2. I mean, the volume is way down, particularly because it's going to have to go into those Spirit Hosts. You might see. Oh, yeah, so he's just measuring off. He's going to be +2, so that's a 7. Although I can't tell. I'm assuming that's a 9-inch stick. That might be a 7-inch stick.
Yeah, that's true. Always hard to tell from the top down, especially, I always mention it, the lens distortion, making things look a little wonky sometimes, but.
Yeah, it's great we can see the whole table, though.
Yes.
Yep. It's not. There's no giant piece of terrain in the middle where we have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Thankfully, the giant tower, you can see it taking up the top right corner. Again, with that lens distortion, we're basically seeing it from the side. But it looked massive at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good 20 square inch piece of terrain.
Yeah.
And looks like the king is in. He's going to get those plus attacks.
Yeah, I wonder. I feel like he could have positioned him. Maybe he can still pile in, but he probably could be a little further back to tag that unit of Spirit Host as well for the +3, or +2 attacks from another unit within 3 as well.
Yeah, within the half-inch. Yeah, that measurement's hard to guess. It's a big base.
It looks like I feel like he could have done it, but whether he needs it or not, with all this stuff of fighting first, is potentially irrelevant anyways.
And the next shark is in. Yeah, and I wonder where that other shark's going to go.
Looks
you
like
don't want to tag those hex wraiths because they will just pile onto that point. So you want to go into that little one in the middle there.
Yeah. Just again doubling down on trying to eliminate all that stuff, which I think is a smart play. Again, we know with Nighthaunt, we've seen how much stuff has been brought back, right? 6 more wounds to those 2 units of hex wraiths, and they both would have been eliminated. I think that's the name of the game right now for Nighthaunt, right? You think about that and how easily, because that unit of 5 was down to 2 or 3. Think how easily those 2 units could have been eliminated.
Yeah, and it's just the swinginess of dice, whether they go or not. But you still need to do 50% more than you think you're going to.
Exactly.
Do.
Yep, for sure. And yeah, swinginess of sharks too with their shooting, we know is temperamental at best.
Now, something he's probably trying to do with the shark that on the back there is get himself so that where Nagash has to land is outside of 6 with piles and I believe 3-inch weapons from piling around and hitting the king after clearing it with a bunch of arcane bolts.
Yep.
Now, he could probably come in around the corner, touch both sharks, roll them one at a time, and maybe pick up both. He's also got, Hand of Dust still, and a lot of other impactful stuff going into this turn. You wonder if he picks up that king, if he just picks up those 2 sharks too.
Yeah. Really feels like even if we do see this great turn, we're hoping for our Deepkin with the sharks, eliminating the Spirit Host and taking out the Hex Wraiths and Spirit Torment as well. That would be great, but it feels like a double turn in response. Nate hasn't won priority yet. He gave away turn 1. And if he gets a double, it could still just be devastating just with Nagash and those, last 5 Hex Wraiths, right?
Yeah, and if he uses the arcane bolts to clear stuff, he and spells, being able to stay outside of 3, let someone waste their fight first, and then pile in is going to be really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. There are definitely ways around that Deepkin fighting at the start of the combat phase. You can take advantage of them and find ways to get into it. Yeah,
the ability for pretty much any army that has charged mortals or anything out of phase damage to avoid that is something everyone needs to think about playing against this army. Or really anything to fight first, Fire Slayers, etc.
Yeah, for sure.
If he does not clear those Spirit Hosts with the 2 that come back, that teleport, and moving those Hex Wraiths, Nate will be able to get 3 objectives.
I think he has to be able to finish off those Hex Wraiths. You think the Achillean Cane with +4 attacks right now is going to... I don't remember the loadout.
I'm sorry, I mean the Spirit Hosts.
Roger that.
3 sharks. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And it was dicey. He happened to pick one up with Lotan, but it doesn't look like Lotan's in combat anymore. So, it's that killed down to 4. They went back up. It's going to be questionable.
Yep, definitely. But if the Spirit Torment goes down, that's at least 1 less, base coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and the Nate's saying the reason he's avoiding the king is he's was waiting for Nagash to be able to
Yeah.
do it to get that extra point. And in this low scoring missions, those extra points are so important.
Yeah.
It's the one place I've seen like hugely impact of the prime hunters and
Yeah.
etc. Is low scoring mission you can essentially ignore the primary and just hunt down stuff, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. And you know what I would have loved to see here actually? So the king has just killed the Spirit Torment and the Hex Wraiths. I would have loved to see him actually activate those 2 single sharks first and try to kill the Hex Wraiths with one and the Spirit Torment with the other. If he had to put himself again a little closer to those Spirit Torment, the Spirit Host, that king could have piled in towards the Spirit Host afterwards and helped to ensure that they were killed. Because those 2 sharks right now are, lost their usefulness in terms of combat, right? So the king did all the work, which is great that he ensured it happened. But if he had been able to do it with the sharks, it would have potentially allowed the king to help with the Spirit Hosts. Because you are right, he does really, really need to eliminate that unit. Sounds like our hero Lotan has dealt 0 damage this time.
He spent it all the first time.
Yeah, Nate mentioning in chat actually because of just the volume of attacks from the Shark Riders, that the Riders have actually been dealing more damage than the Bites because because of the Ethereal. And I actually found the same thing playing a ton of Thunder Lizards, way too much Thunder Lizards at tournaments. When they reduce the damage, yeah, the 6 attacks of the Sharks are more valuable when things are getting +2 to save anyways.
Yeah, which is great, and it's another reason those flies are still going to be a problem.
Yep. Oh yeah, yep. For a while, I would love to see a couple points go up on them. Still, like you never want to see a unit neutered or pushed to obscurity, but just a little curbing never hurts when we see a unit like that. Like we saw with Deepkin previously with the Eels, needed points adjustments, eventually got them. Maybe a little too heavy-handed, where now we don't see them at all, but. Yeah, always takes balancing back and forth.
It looks like these sharks are going into hosts now, and we'll see if there's enough. And I don't think you have enough attacks, but
okay, so
yeah.
Looks like 1 and a bit base remaining, so 4 or 5 wounds in that unit still.
Yeah, and that that's going to be 2 attacks. He needs 2 6s on what is it? 6 attacks each.
Yep.
So mathematically,
should kill off that last shark or one of the sharks.
Yeah.
And then we're into Nighthaunt turn. With that, and like you said, those Spirit Hosts surviving is going to be quite impactful. Potential recursion and everything. That's annoying. Again, would have loved to see that king. Now might not have worked out in the end if the sharks couldn't do the work, but it would have just made him a little more flexible with the options. If he had been able to do it with the sharks. Might not have worked or anything, but you want to put yourself in that position where you kind of have, as much redundancies as possible.
Yeah, and so they're swinging back.
There goes that shark.
There it is. And the shark save is not that great. So even the regular attacks on the Spirit Hosts are going to pull them down. It looks like 1 is left with 4 wounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that squad's half gone now.
And here I think, again, you wish that those Spirit Hosts were finished off, because that's going to be very unfortunate. But he does get the hold 1, hold 2, hold more, and his battle tactic for 5 points this round. So as much as he could have hoped for with storing, with the redeploy not going on those hatch raids.
And he's going to be up some points.
Yep.
In going into where you want to be, which is good. His bodies are in an unfortunate position though.
Yeah, definitely. We are going to be up 14-3, going into the final Nighthaunt turn, or not the final, the bottom of the round into the Nighthaunt turn.
The important Nighthaunt.
Yeah. And yeah, actually those Spirit Hosts, because that's even bad. Even if they just stick in combat with those sharks, I guess they're fighting first, right? So those sharks could finish them off still. So
yeah,
it's still a consideration.
You pull them away. I'm not sure how. I don't remember how the Emerald Host teleport works. But if you can just pull them and put them on that back point after putting 2 more out, you're taking that back point. You just can take the bottom right point by just moving, and then Nagash comes in and cleans up the middle. Pretty, you're bringing your back on the points. I'm assuming he's going to slay the Warlord this turn as long as he feels comfortable that he can get there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't necessarily have to get there because you can just hand of dust him.
Yep. And yeah, potential extra points with that as well if he goes that route.
Yeah, I mean, alternately, he can just put the Spirit Hosts into the Sharks again, and maybe pick up another 1 or 2.
Yeah, just the fight first is risking.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit. But I mean, it's only 2 sharks now, so less attacks, and they're not shooting as well. So they, those 4 bases probably would survive the combat, but yeah.
But you never know.
Exactly.
You gotta, keep the hero Lotan out, but
yep.
And looks like they're doing their heroic actions. We've got Nagash making a CP.
And sounds like Nagash is gone for an easy counter here.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Or sorry, Nighthaunt, sorry. But yeah, obviously that bottom right objective is just completely open. You just touch 1 hatch wraith on it and it is yours. But then, Nate said earlier he was trying to keep that king alive for the savage, say the warlord later, which maybe Nagash just goes in and cleans up those 2 sharks and whips a couple arcane bolts. If he has extras into the king just to soften him up, or even the other 2 pack of sharks.
Yeah.
If he can get 4 arcane bolts and finish off one of the sharks before combat, that's not bad at all. You're a lot more comfortable staying in combat with the unit of sharks.
Yeah, he still has Hand of Dust as well and a portal.
True.
So you can pull the full shark off.
Yep.
And then do that and clear them completely.
Yeah, very true. And I love this list. It's so cool, Nate. I love it. It's super cool to see it played in action.
Too bad it's gone.
I know.
It's really, yeah. No, but the new book is so fun.
Yep. We've had again, just had Matt on yesterday filming a game or a battle report with his Nighthaunt. We had my brother on for a game that's live on the channel for premium members. And then I have another friend who's got his Nighthaunt, Ryan, and wants to bring them out next week. So everyone's excited to bring out their their Nighthaunt armies that they've probably had for years and haven't played in a while.
The channel is going to be very spooky.
Yes, quite spooky, but that's all right. Great to see the new armies in action. We do have next week a Daughters of Cain matchup coming out with the new book. I was playing the Daughters and very excited to get some of their new things on the table and in play. Ran a big block of sisters with the Gladiatrix, and I mean the bow snakes are what they always were, but the combat snakes are a little different now as well, and some neat changes in the book overall.
That's fun. I like big, hard hitting, not as survivable as sort of an archetype for them. I've only played them as Gloomspite Gits so far, but I intend. I'm sure I'll see them this weekend at ACO.
Yeah, for sure. What are you taking this weekend then? Is it listed already?
Lists are in. I put up a poll on Twitter, and then ignored it and brought Iron Jaws.
Nice. Okay, what won the poll originally?
Trolls by a landslide. Okay. Yeah.
So you took a poll, asked people's opinion, and then completely disregarded it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah.
classic destruction move.
Yeah. No, I have not been able to locate a couple of the troll models, and so we'll have to see where I left them before they come back out.
Fair enough. You did not leave them up in Canada. I haven't found them anywhere.
No trolls wandering around. Yeah. I'm sure they're around. I've been hitting tournaments hard enough this year that I could have painted up a couple. I have significantly more trolls than necessary.
That's how it always goes for armies we love, right?
Yeah.
I have 27 eels that have not seen the table more than once this edition.
All right, so it looks like Nagash has been casting spells. We have he has put a Mystic Shield on himself. He's cast Reaping Sigh, Soul Cage on the King. That's great preventative. Can't retreat. Fight last. This is great. And then
fight last. That's big.
I think that's what that does.
Okay, well, neither of us are Nighthaunt aficionados.
Nate, you in the chat still?
Yeah.
I know I've been made to fight last before it by them.
Oh, sounds like it wasn't Soul Cage actually. Just getting correction from our table boss. No Soul Cage, but there was a Soul Stealer going on to the unit of sharks, but dealt 0 damage. So
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so that was Soul Cage. Yeah, okay, maybe we'll see Soul Cage in the future, but it has not been cast yet.
And we're putting out, I'm guessing, Spell Portal here. Oh. Yep.
See the spell portals on the bottom of the screen there, just waiting to be put down.
And
I like you said, he's probably going for that unit of sharks. Looks like they're not going to be in range, so he just plopped it over by the king.
Yep. Probably just going to try to pull that shark. I would with Hand of Dust, if he's still wants to.
So Nate in the chat saying because Soul Cage is fight last and he does have fight first, that they would just cancel out normal. Yeah, and fight normal action. So he chose not to cast that spell.
Yeah, which just wouldn't matter very much.
Yeah.
So Hand of Dust looks like has failed.
Ooh, that's painful.
Yeah,
unfortunate.
It doesn't happen very often.
And you're at +3 to cast.
Yeah, he was at +4 at the beginning of the game. That's arcane in the back corner.
Oh, true, yeah. But seeing a couple arcane bolts going on there.
Yep. Popping out some tokens. Head over, with his combat and those, wouldn't be super worried about, clearing out a lot of that middle.
Nate's correcting us. Apparently, Hand of Dust fails all the time. It's the only spell he ever fails, which is how it always feels when you're the player, right? You always remember the things that don't go your way when you need them to, and especially big critical spells like that. That's always the thing, right? When you have something that strong and you're like, okay, this will help me seal the game, you never get it. Yeah.
Every time. That's my destroyer axe. That thing only rolls ones.
Oh yeah.
It looks like I was correct as well. That it is no retreat and fight last on that spell.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, we saw a Life Stealer go through the portal afterwards for 3 mortal wounds to the king. He's down to 4 wounds left because he has a pitiful 7 wounds. But 2 arcane bolts. So we could see the arcane bolts now. Again, he's probably going to try and keep the king alive. Save him for a Slay the Warlord later.
Yep, and then he's going to teleport. So let's see, move these guys over. So yeah, so he's gonna charge that one shark, attempt to mortal it off, pile into the other one. Just taking that easy battle tactic with those hex wraiths.
Yep, of Conquer, yeah, for sure.
Seeing how far he is from the king. And if he's trying to hold back for that battle tactic, this is good. Putting it just sitting there where he wins the turn. Oh, and the teleport to. You got to always look at where that little 9-inch and 3-inch bubble is to screen those off against a teleport.
Yep.
When you're using the circles, which I used to not like, but now have become pretty big fan of.
Oh yeah, they're definitely effective. Like for tournament games, when again, it's nice to have, right, those visual markers of easy to just touch objectives, and there's no question of which models are on or off. It makes things go smoother, like we talked about earlier. Is always great at tournament games when you're especially under a time crunch and playing new opponents and new armies.
Yeah, and looks like Nagash has just shot off that shark.
Yeah, okay.
And now, it's probably looking at a 5 or something.
So charges with, it's an 8-inch charge, so probably avoiding tagging that king.
Yeah.
Again, ooh.
Declaring 3 out.
I wonder if I would be nervous to leave that king alive and avoid him entirely here. Being that he retreated or teleported those spirit hosts out from those 2 shards. Because the king plus 2 shards, if Esteban wins priority, could do some work.
So he's going to release his arcane bolts. It's like that was the tokens being reduced. And then
dealing 5 damage to the sharks.
Yep, that's pretty good. And then I'm assuming he's just stomping down. Yeah, stomping down on that shark to try to clear it out of the way.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I feel like he's got to kill the king here. Doesn't have to. Like, he's got that Mystic Shield on himself. He can still do Finest Hour next turn. All out defense. So I guess it's still +3 to save. The king is rend 3, so it brings him back to his base save. But do you leave him alive for the battle tactic at the risk of a king?
The problem here is you've still got Monstrous Takeover.
Yeah.
You don't have, if you kill the king, you've already done Battle Line.
Yeah,
if you lose those other 2 units, Savage Spearhead's going to be a problem. Otherwise, it's not an issue.
But I don't think the Spear hosts are really threatened right now. So I think he goes for the king kill here probably, and goes for a Monstrous Takeover and Savage Spearhead round 4 and 5.
Yep.
Would make sense. So after the stomp, it sounds like that shark has just 1 wound remaining. Is going to get to fight first though, because it is high tide still for the Deepkin. And again,
I think he's trying to figure out if he can pile in the way
to block the king off.
To block the king off. Now I'm pretty sure Nagash has 3-inch range. So um, I don't know if that's super possible.
But with the long or octagon of the not octagon oval, that's the word, of the shark base, that it could make it a little difficult because he is outside 3 right now.
And this is where measuring and dealing with this in advance is going to be really important.
Yep.
To just having a good game with your opponent.
Yep.
And once you've measured and such, you then agree that that's what it is. I think you probably can.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Kind of suspected that shark to have disappeared earlier, so this might be a slightly unfortunate turn for Nate. Although that shark's
Well,
completely...
he was dealing 3d3 damage between the 2 arcane bolts and the stomp. So to get 7 out of 8 damage, that's actually above average. So
yeah,
not not unexpected or unrealistic for that shark to live there. And that shark, it sounds like he's gonna do 3 damage here to Nagash.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah, pretty solid. It gives there's you get a YOLO play here where if you can send everything into Nagash and see what happens.
Yeah,
Nagash has not used Best Day Ever yet.
No, exactly.
Has a Mystic Shield on him.
There's no monster to roar, so he'll get the all-out defense too.
Yeah, +3 to save, and not you're fighting 1 unit at a time. Is going to be okay. So the staff. So let's see. So yeah, so he's going to pile him around, and looks like they're just figuring out. Yeah, it looks like Nagash will be able to get over and into that king.
Well, so again, players smartly measuring it out first, making sure, and then it's just easy to solve.
Yep, and Nagash is stuck on terrain, but
and that
is a little bit farther forward.
Shark only has 1 wound, so Nagash does have some ghosts floating around that might be able to finish off the shark as well. He's putting the big weapons into the king.
Yeah, it looks like the staff is into the king, and the rest are into the shark. So that's the only 3-inch range weapon. So that makes sense.
Yep. And worth just noting, the shark did use all-out attack when it dealt that 3 damage to Nagash. Noteworthy, because that must have been one of the sharks from the Shiver, which I still don't love the Shiver, the concept of it. Because if that was like 1 shark remaining from the 3-pack, it would be the unit leader, which would already have +1 to hit. So giving up the +1 to hits from the unit leaders is unfortunate. But we do see that shark lifted, so it's
I think I fundamentally don't understand the Shiver.
Yeah, it's such a low reward play, or
I mean, I think the reason you take it is so that you make just 3 random sharks battle line and you get something from
exactly
it.
Because you do it if you already want single sharks, which are flexible. But yeah, they're okay. The king has gone down.
Yeah. So that was an excellent turn for Nighthaunt. 1-2 more battle tactic, and they're going into turn roll here. The objective is moved. The biggest problem on the board is sitting in the middle of the point.
The dash is still there.
Now, I don't know if this tournament, you were there, does your differential matter for rankings, or is there any reason here to go say, hey, I need to get my grand strat, I'm going to run away with these sharks?
Yep. So your total VP is the first tiebreaker after wins. Differential, not strictly differential, but just your total VP that you stored.
Total VP. So you do want to go up, but those sharks are essentially anywhere on the board going to get picked up.
Yeah.
You maybe just try to score the point once with YOLO to the middle here.
yeah, was just throwing everything on the objective, outnumbering Nagash by 1. But IDK, yeah, has won the turn, and is going to take it. No surprise. But again, smart heads up play with making sure Nate got that Achillean King, because the Achillean King and 2 sharks could have been relatively scary. Again, fighting first from the King's ability, effectively letting them both attack. But yeah.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the fish people here.
No, it's not.
They're measuring where they can get on the point without fighting, which is the right thing to do. There's only counts as 5 bodies there, so if you can somehow get Lotan over there,
yeah, if you run your sharks first, or potentially run the battle mage. Also looks like he's measuring up Savage Spearhead.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I was wondering why that battle mage didn't move the last turn, but it's often hard to remember the thing in the back corner.
Yeah, could have just moved up a little bit. Even tagging the center of that objective would have denied Nate stealing it, right? And so would not the hold 2, but not hold more unless he made a long charge. So that actually is noteworthy that battle mage was not moved last round.
Yep. And there was nothing back there. There's no reason, they needed to be. You just be 2-3 inches over. It's just something to take a second look at generally when you're, leaving models that aren't going to get engaged, but can be in the right place.
Sure. And just while players are doing or looking through the hero phase, planning it out, we want to give a huge shout out to Neil, who just sent over a super chat to help support the channel. Super appreciate it. It does go a long way in terms of helping us and try to be sustainable and make sure we can continue to do this and run the channel for as long as possible, and you guys enjoy the content. So really appreciate all the support. But sadly, it's not looking too good for my Idoneth Deepkin here tonight. Still hoping for Esteban, but it's I think the writing's on the wall at this point. Might be able to squeak out a couple points, but I think I don't know. What do you think? Do you see any path to victory for Esteban still?
No, Nagash is exactly where you want him.
Yep.
I see here you try to sneak out to be able to score some battle tactics, and that's pretty much it. I don't think you're shortening the game if you try to get into that middle point, because you're just going to die.
Yep.
There's nothing left on the board. That's that. I mean, who knows? Maybe you shoot a little bit and then do a charge. But you needed to either really rack up points early, or be, I think, a little bit more conservative with the positioning of that stuff going into the middle. We were talking about that, like that's the move. I think because of where Nagash was, potentially holding back a little bit more and try to clear more hex wraiths might have been the thing to do.
And that one shark that ended up just being thrown away, trying to tie stuff up, didn't do its job with being able to be taking on the hero phase.
Yeah, gave a monster tactic up, and it's great being able to put your big stuff that you have to actually use in the game be your battle line, but it also often provides that.
Little things here. Again, I think if we had have seen like just one more hex wraith go down from that unit that just was one, would have allowed potentially this past turn him to finish off the unit of 5 with the 2 sharks and have the king do what he did into the Spirit Torment, or have the king help with the Spirit Host. Sorry, again, eliminating that unit would have been critical too. So really shows the strength of the recursion that was in this list that Nate has been running. That really has allowed a pretty unassuming faction in Nighthaunt to be pretty strong here with the bodies just not doing a ton of damage, but sticking around and chipping stuff down and taking objectives.
Yeah, I think if he's doing broken ranks on the Spirit Hosts.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's tough ones here, but I saw him measuring up the distance between the sharks. So
I think the idea might be, I don't know, because he just does monsters take over and then does Savage Spearhead. And they're going to be sitting right in,
the dashes,
yeah, just obliterated.
Yeah. It does look like a 9-inch charge here too.
Yeah, it was more achievable than the, because sometimes you'll get Savage Spearhead by just charging over the line. Unfortunately, in this case, charging over the line means Nagash is going to fight you. And so, I think he might be able to get 2 points here. And then Battle Mage is going to go fight him too.
Yeah. Brave Battle Mage.
Where they moved, he might just be throwing the tactic and trying to set himself up for something.
Yeah, because you think with that Battle Mage moving, Nate could redeploy those Spirit Hosts and make that impossible to achieve that battle tactic with even like a 3.
Yeah, I know he already redeployed Nagash a little bit.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. So just 1 inch.
It was 1 inch because that's always what it is.
Yeah, should just be an automatic 1 inch movement.
Yeah.
You can spend multiple CP to make it longer.
Yeah. So it looks like they're shooting the Spirit Hosts. That makes sense. And the wound is in the back, so it's not going to make. Depending on how many kills.
Yeah, true. Not going to make the charge any harder. Unless he kills 2. You're right.
Yeah.
And looks like it's killed 1, applied the wound to that front one now, but no more shooting coming out of the Deepkin list.
No. And they're on to big charges here. It's hard to, I'm looking at the size. It's probably an 8. 9.
I think it was a 9-inch charge. I think he threw that stick down earlier, and it could have been an 8-inch stick. Actually, he does have the full range of sizes, so I guess going by the sticks isn't too safe.
Yeah, that's great. I like that.
It looks like a big charge here, though, for the Sharks.
Yeah, big 11. Yeah. Now, earlier we saw the Spirit Hosts tank 3 of them and fantastic attacks by Lotan. But it's swingy, but it can also be a disaster for the Spirit Hosts here.
So just from the chat, he did stay purposefully outside of 9 inches, not to trigger the redeploy, which is why Nagash then redeployed, which allowed the Battle Mage to move freely afterwards. So the Battle Mage probably would not have moved to begin with, because Esteban was worried about that redeploy. So
right, which is that's
heads up play. Even if you could have been an inch closer, it's better to not let your opponent redeploy because you're losing at least an inch anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting those big charges is critical sometimes.
He's on the top of the turn here, so he's probably going to be doing something similar with whatever Nagash does if he moves up there to try to have something on the board going into round 5.
Yep.
I'd expect him to try to pile those Sharks
a little further so Nagash has to come off.
Yeah, so that you can come off, and then you've got Lotan there if you get the the problem is those Hex Raids can just teleport onto the middle point.
Brave little Lotan will have a tough time taking that objective.
Yeah. Just have to go kill 4 Hex Raids.
4 Hex Rays, or 5 Hex Rays in that unit now, or take on Nagash. I don't think the little octopus is up to that. The Octar, the Octar is up to that task.
I like that they were worried about, they changed orcs to orcs and
Yeah.
farted and all this so they would have the thing, but they also did it with octopus.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so those spirit hosts have gone down to the sharks. So he will achieve his battle tactic of broken ranks, scoring him 2 points up to 16. And we will be going into Nighthaunt turn though, and 3 points is not enough of a lead here.
Yeah,
Because
you're gonna it's gonna be
yeah,
it'd be interesting. I guess you do.
you do monstrous takeover, sit on the edge, and unless the sharks redeploy, actually.
Yeah, the redeploy could get them so that you'd have to come off of it.
So you just do Savage Spearhead
You
now.
can also just Savage Spearhead. Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. So you can see that tape measure come out. Yeah.
So sounds like from the table boss that the players are just calling it here. Again, I think pretty much a foregone conclusion that those sharks are going to go down to Nagash. And even if they don't, they're not going to be able to take, that objective. Yeah, so points wise, what we're going to score. I think the players are, it looks like, just working on the score sheet now and tallying it up. So just, yeah, I can see it on the score sheet, just 4 points here for the Nighthaunt. So it'll be, and there we see the handshake. So 4 points in round 4 for Nighthaunt. So they'll be up 1 point. I'm not sure if they rolled priority for round 5. But it sounds like another 4 points, yeah, for Nighthaunt here. And I don't think
you might see the traditional pass a White Claw across the table. I don't know if you caught it on camera.
Oh, I did not.
But that is a pretty traditional move at these kind of round 3 end of day.
Yeah.
All right, we're done for the day. Let's go hang out somewhere.
So I'm not sure on the order of operations, but again, if they're just assuming those sharks went down, Savage Spearhead would have been the last potential achievable battle tactic for Deepkin. But with a priority loss, it wouldn't have mattered. So I think we're to see 21-16 as our final score here today for Nighthaunt. Man, I actually really was excited to see this Nighthaunt army in action. Nate's been doing super well with it, went top 8 at LVO as well. So I love seeing this again with the dash. My first time seeing this build in action. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I love it. I've seen Nate play several times, but we've actually never matched up while he was playing this army. And we, it's really fascinating that just conservative pressure of Nagash is going to arrive at some point here, and then just projecting it out. About 1,000 points of Nighthaunt did most of the work. And then Nagash showed up, later on for, here it is. And I really like that structuring of this.
Yeah.
And those 9 spirit hosts are just so good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And we saw them just, he probably killed like 20 spirit hosts over the course of this game. In total, just with the recursion, literally 4 went down, partially planned by Nate, but 4 went down turn 1 alone with coherency. So this is, definitely a solid army in this build with Nighthaunt. And when the book, before the new tome, when people were really writing this off, you can see a skilled player knowing an army really well can be extremely effective with it, right?
Yeah, and that's what's actually really great about, I think, the place the game's in right now. Is pretty much every army. If you're a skilled player and you really understand what your build is doing, and you get your reps in with it, you can go and have a lot of really close games, and not as dice reliant, but it's always in there, and there's a lot more fun to be had with a lot of these books. And you just have to, bang your head against it and figure out how it works.
Yeah, for a little while, you just struggle, but you can get there with enough practice and reps, and matchups and stuff is a factor too. But with that, we are running out on the timer here. So I am going to say a big thank you to everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed the game. This look at Nighthaunt and his or Nate's awesome list here against Esteban, who played an excellent game as well. Worth definitely giving him a shout out. Tough one here for the Deepkin, but put himself in the best position he could and very well played on his side as well. With that, we'll say a big thank you to everyone for watching. Noah, thank you, and thank you to our table boss, Josh. We'll see you guys all soon in another battle report.